Zach, do you remember that hyper-realistic holiday movie? The one that reminds us of the true meaning of Christmas? No, not the one with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye. I speak of 1988's Die Hard, directed by John McTiernan. It was adapted for the silver screen from Roderick Thorpe's 1979 novel, Nothing Lasts Forever. The film is iconic not only for its cemented status as one of the best holiday films ever, but for a turning point in action cinema. Normally saturated with films starring unflinching strongmen like Arnold S. or S. Stallone, Die Hard revitalized the genre by giving filmgoers a vulnerable, flawed protagonist whose victory was not certain. We meet John McClane, played by Bruce Willis. McClane, a police officer from New York City, has flown to Los Angeles to see his estranged wife. He is joined by limo driver Argyle, played by Devereux White, who has been hired to drive him to his wife's office party at the Nakatomi Corporation's headquarters in the eponymous Nakatomi building, played by the Fox Plaza. While McClane travels to the party, we are also introduced to several key members of the Nakatomi Corporation. Joseph Takagi, played by James Shigeta, as the head executive, Ellis, the sleazy sales executive, played by Hart Bachner, and Holly, another high-ranking executive, and John McClane's estranged wife, played by Bonnie Bedelia. Ellis insists on flirting with Holly, who is not receptive to his advances. During their commute, McClane explains that his relationship with his wife is strained due to the success of her career and her subsequent relocation to Los Angeles, as well as his job as a police officer in New York, which, say, when we're done here, Google 40% of cops. Upon arriving at the tower, he learns that Holly has reverted to using her original surname, Gennaro. McClane meets the Nakatomi executives. Joseph Takagi is very hospitable and receptive and explains that the building is still under construction. They catch Ellis doing cocaine in Holly's office. He missed some. And Holly, who is pleased to see him. Ellis interrupts the happy reunion by trying to get Holly to show off a Rolex she received from him as a gift for closing a big deal, a detail that will absolutely not be important later. We are shown ominous footage of a box truck and a Mercedes-Benz in LA traffic. McClane and Holly have a private discussion about the state of their relationship, which, surprisingly, does not go well. Holly leaves McClane to continue cleaning up. As part of his routine, he removes his shoes and his socks and makes fists with his toes. A passenger on McClane's flight to LA insisted that this is a good trick for de-stressing. The convoy reaches the Nakatomi building. The occupants of the Mercedes-Benz enter the lobby and assassinate the bare-bones security staff. They proceed to lock down the building and hijack the elevators, preventing any escape, as a large number of them emerge from the back of the box truck in the garage, including a very well-dressed gentleman. McClane calls Argyle, who is also parked in the building's garage, to report that a determination on his evening plans has not yet been made. Their phone conversation is cut short when the belligerents cut the phone line. Shortly after, gunfire erupts. The assailants have reached the floor with the party and have begun taking hostages. McClane is able to retrieve his sidearm and flee into the stairwell, but only with the clothes on his back. No shirt, no shoes, and no socks. We are introduced to most of the apparent terrorists. They are led by a man we will come to know as Hans, played by Alan Rickman, who opposes seemingly anti-capitalist rhetoric while singling out Takagi for interrogation. McClane, still in the stairwell, examines some of the floors around the party, also seeing that the terrorists possess highly dangerous anti-aircraft weaponry, not the sort of thing one just buys at Bass Pro Shops. We meet Hans' lieutenants. Theo, played by Clarence Gilliard, who some viewers may recognize from 1986's Top Gun, is their hacker. Carl, played by Alexander Godunov, serves as Hans' second in command. Also present is Carl's brother Tony, played by Andreas Wisniewski, who some viewers may recognize as the assassin Necros from 1987's The Living Daylights. Hans demands that Takagi give him the password for an executive computer terminal. Takagi refuses, believing the motive is corporate espionage. Hans instead informs him that he is more interested in $640 million in negotiable bearer bonds locked in the company's vault, revealing that the entire attack is a robbery. Witnessed by McClane, Takagi refuses to provide the password and is executed by Hans. McClane's exit from the area is noisy, but he is able to escape unseen. As the sequence plays out, the other terrorists are seen placing explosives throughout the building. Standing outside the Nakatomi Corporation's vault, Hans has Theo explain, mostly for the audience's benefit, that once he breaks the code, he still needs to drill past 6 locks in the safe, but that they also need to engineer a solution for a final electromagnetic seal. Hans assures Theo that it will be taken care of. McClane, becoming unhinged, openly laments being unable to save Takagi, but realizing he would have been hopelessly outmatched. Discovering that the phone lines have been cut, he pulls the fire alarm in an attempt to summon the authorities, unwittingly alerting the terrorists to his location. They contact 911 dispatch and cancel the alarm, and assuming that they were only dealing with an unmotivated security guard, send Tony to check the area. Theo cracks Takagi's code by translating his name to English, allowing him to begin drilling the vault. Following a confrontation, McClane and Tony fight, leading to the death of Tony in a stairwell due to his neck being snapped. McClane raids his supply of weapons, radio, cigarettes, and his wallet, but laments that the assailant's shoes do not fit him. 9 million terrorists in the world, and I have to kill one with feet smaller than my sister's, is the exact line. Deciding to scare the terrorists, McClane leaves Tony's body in an elevator and hides on top of it, sending the elevator to the 30th floor. Hans' seemingly ironclad grip on the situation is faltered when the hostages see the body in the elevator, whose sweatshirt has been defaced with the legendary, "Now I have a machine gun, ho, ho, ho." McClane takes the opportunity to listen to the panicked terrorists, allowing him to learn some of their names and their troop strength. He escapes to one of the higher floors. A despondent Carl demands to be allowed to hunt their unknown enemy down, but Hans retorts that they are still in their setup phase and cannot afford to alter their plans yet, unless their assailant does it for them. McClane reaches the roof and, using his stolen radio, attempts to call for help. Knowing that the only place he could transmit and be heard is the rooftop, Hans allows Carl to take off with the search party. The LAPD dispatcher, who knows the building is at a false fire alarm, is reluctant to believe their caller's claim of a terrorist attack. Threatening to have him arrested for an FCC violation, McClane demands they come and do just that. The conversation is cut off by gunfire, which the dispatcher apparently mistakes for... I don't know. As the gunfight plays out, we are introduced to Sergeant Al Powell of the Los Angeles Police Department, played by Reginald VelJohnson. He receives the call from dispatch to investigate a disturbance at the Nakatomi building. After a prolonged gunfight, including a tense escape punctuated by every millennial hipster's favorite Christmas tree ornament, Carl's party is ordered to retreat by Hans as a patrol car has arrived and they can't afford to have it hear gunfire. Powell arrives and enters the building. At the same time, McClane is found by Marco and Heinrich, and both are killed in the gunfight. Seemingly satisfied with the alleged building guard's explanation of bugs in the new computer system, Powell returns to his car. Desperate to get his attention, McClane throws Marco's body onto the hood of Powell's patrol car. Startled, he throws the car in reverse, which causes someone in the building to open fire on him. Coming under automatic weapons fire, Powell radios for backup, and the LAPD descend upon the building plaza. McClane and Hans taunt each other over the radio, leading to the de facto tagline of the film, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker." McClane, using the pseudonym Roy, begins communicating with Powell over the radio, explaining troop strength, armament, and location of the hostages. Hans is unfazed until they confirm the death of Heinrich, whose bag, which apparently held detonators, is missing, presumably in McClane's possession. LAPD continue to cordon off the area. Dwayne Robinson, the deputy police chief of the LAPD, played by Paul Gleason, arrives to take charge. He chastises Powell for listening to Roy and attempts to downplay the situation as a hoax. His presence in the film is seemingly to be a pain in the ass, somehow explaining away the fallen body as a depressed stockbroker, but apparently forgetting that Powell's car is riddled with 7.62 machine gun rounds. Meanwhile, Richard Thornburg of KFLW TV News, played by William Atherton, overhears the call for help on the police band and commandeers a news van and arrives at the scene. His ensuing news broadcast causes the previously aloof Argyle to realize he is trapped in the building's garage. Holly becomes the de facto leader of the hostages, negotiating for amenities and bathroom breaks. She realizes that her family photo, which includes McClane, is still resting face down following their argument earlier. LAPD, still trying to ascertain the situation, send a SWAT team to try and enter the building. While the team is approaching, the barricade is fired on by the terrorists, the target being their searchlights. The terrorists in the lobby, with orders to wound and not kill, open fire on the SWAT team, neutralizing them. LAPD retaliate by sending an armored personnel carrier towards the entrance, but it is destroyed by a missile fired from a lower floor. When Hans refuses McClane's demand for a ceasefire, McClane evens the score by dropping C4 down an elevator shaft, destroying the floor with the missile launcher and killing everyone in it. The highly visible battle, witnessed both by LAPD and the news crew on scene, allows the true gravity of the situation to finally be realized by those on the outside. The situation is picked up by national media, with Hans Gruber identified as an excommunicated member of a left-wing West German paramilitary organization. McClane and Robinson clash over methodology over the radio, with Robinson insisting he has the situation under control, to which McClane retorts, over an open radio frequency, that, "I'm not the one who just got butt-fucked on national TV, Dwayne." Ellis, shown to be heavily under the influence of cocaine and frustrated in his belief that Holly's husband will get them all killed, approaches the terrorists with an offer to flush out McClane. Hans reveals McClane's name and occupation over the radio, but was not told by Ellis about Holly's connection to him. Handing the radio to Ellis, he pretends to be the friend McClane came to the party for. Hamming it up, he claims Hans will kill him if McClane doesn't surrender the detonators. The situation quickly deteriorates. McClane pleads for Ellis to stop the charade. Hans draws his weapon and threatens Ellis, much to his shock. "Hans, baby, put the gun away. This is radio, not television." When McClane refuses to relent, Hans executes Ellis. Following the incident, Hans contacts the police with a series of demands for prisoner releases, as well as helicopters for transport. Hans then orders Carl to hunt McClane down and kill him. Due to their significant losses in personnel, Hans goes to check the planted explosives personally. FBI arrive at Nakatomi Plaza. Agent Johnson, played by Grandel Bush, and Special Agent Johnson, played by Robert Davi, no relation, assume direct command, usurping Robinson's control of the LAPD. Hans, inspecting the explosives, is confronted by McClane. McClane seemingly does not recognize him, allowing Hans to masquerade as an escaped hostage. Following a discussion, McClane gives Bill Clay a pistol for defense. Hans points the gun at McClane and threatens him, but when McClane taunts him, Hans discovers the gun is empty. McClane's moment is short-lived as reinforcements arrive. Hans, remembering that McClane is barefoot, orders Carl to shoot the glass. McClane manages to escape at great physical cost and is unable to bring his supplies with him, allowing Hans to reclaim the detonators. Theo breaks through the final physical lock, causing the electromatic seal to clamp down. Hans continues to assure him that a solution is coming. McClane, now answering to his real name, discusses life topics with Powell. Powell reveals his preference for desk work following a shooting earlier in his career when he mistook a child holding a toy gun for a real gun, and that out of remorse, he has refused any assignment that would cause him to require drawing his weapon. He also informs McClane that FBI is now in charge of the situation, and that as their first step, they are cutting the building's power. Unknown to everyone, having the FBI cut the building's power was part of Hans's master plan, causing the electromatic seal to open, granting access to the vault. The only way to conduct the theft would be with a brazen, high-profile incident that would bring in federal authorities. As a result, apart from the loss of associates, the evening has largely gone to plan. FBI tell Hans that the list of prisoners are in the process of having their releases arranged by the State Department and that helicopters he has demanded are en route. The FBI, however, have made zero effort towards the prisoner release demands and intend to open fire at the exchange. At this point, it is revealed to the audience that the plan is to have the rooftop blown up while the hostages are standing on it, allowing the terrorists to escape in the confusion. Richard Thornburg, who earlier learned that McClane had family in the area, arrives at the Gennaro household. Demanding to interview the McClane Gennaro children, he gains access by threatening the housekeeper with contacting immigration authorities. McClane becomes curious as to why Hans was investigating the higher floors. Going back to look, he discovers the entire rooftop is wired to blow. Before he can contact Powell, he is confronted by Carl, who destroys his radio. While Carl and McClane fight, Hans prepares his plan. Before he can order the hostages to the roof, Thornburg's interview with Holly's children airs. Holly reacts visibly to seeing her daughter, causing Hans to lift up the lowered picture frame, revealing McClane as her husband. The hostages are brought to the rooftop, but Holly is kept as prisoner. FBI approach the building by gunship, not transport helicopter. Hans attempts to threaten McClane with the knowledge that his wife is now prisoner, but cannot reach him since the radio is destroyed and he's a little busy at the moment. McClane eventually defeats Carl, hanging him from the rafters by chain. McClane kills the terrorist guarding the rooftop. The hostages reveal that the terrorists still have Holly. McClane reveals the rooftop is wired to blow, but the hostages are reluctant to retreat back down. McClane convinces them the only way he can, by wildly firing into the air. They get the message, but the FBI mistake him for a terrorist and begin shooting at him. Desperate to get off the rooftop, McClane begins to set up a rappelling escape with a fire hose. When the terrorists realize the hostages have left the roof, Hans activates the detonator. The rooftop of the Nakatomi building explodes in a sensational fireball. The FBI helicopter is destroyed in the blaze. McClane's rappelling works, bringing him back to the 30th floor, which is now on fire. In the parking garage, the trapped Argyle witnesses an ambulance emerging from the back of the box truck. Realizing it is the terrorist's presumptive getaway vehicle, he crashes his limousine into it and attacks Theo, knocking him out and effectively destroying the escape plan. McClane realizes he has 2 bullets left. He catches one of the 3 remaining terrorists by surprise and knocks him out, confronting Hans and his remaining subordinate with a submachine gun, which doesn't seem like the perfect medium for 2 bullets, but okay. McClane realizes the entire affair has been a robbery. We are reminded of McClane's status as a tool of the state when he asks why the property had to be partially destroyed. Hans explains the destruction of the rooftop was required to cover their escape and fake their deaths, then threatens to execute Holly if McClane does not drop his gun. Hans and McClane taunt each other, leading to Hans repeating the eponymous yippee-ki-yay motherfucker line, causing McClane to start laughing. Hans and his subordinate participate in the infectious laughter as the camera pans to reveal that McClane's sidearm is taped to his shoulder. Holly realizes something is more off about her estranged husband than usual. As Hans takes aims at McClane, McClane yells at Holly to duck, draws the pistol, and shoots Hans in the shoulder and the guard in the head. Hans, still clutching Holly, crashes through the outside window and starts to drag Holly with him. Defiant and still holding his gun, he starts to take aim at McClane, but McClane is able to unclasp Holly's Rolex that Hans is holding onto, causing him to fall. With all terrorists either neutralized or dead, McClane and Holly embrace and emerge from the building. McClane and Powell finally meet. Holly introduces herself as Holly McClane. Robinson attempts to demand an explanation for McClane's conduct throughout the incident, but is interrupted when Carl emerges from the building with his rifle. Amid the panic of off-guard first responders, a lone revolver is seen firing at Carl multiple times, finally killing him. The camera pans to reveal the gunman as Powell, having apparently regained the courage to shoot people. This is played off by the soundtrack as inspiring. Argyle crashes through the parking garage gate with his limo. McClane calls off Powell, claiming, "This one's with me." Before John and Holly can reach, they are confronted by Richard Thornburg. When asked what her feelings are after the whole ordeal, Holly punches Richard in the nose on live television. Argyle gets the last line of the film, saying, "If this is their idea of Christmas, I gotta be here for New Year's." John and Holly kiss in the back seat as Vaughn Monroe's rendition of Let It Snow sends the audience home.